Steadily. We dated for a year, moved in the next, adopted a cat named Mocha in year 3, and he proposed last summer. The proposal was simple, just a morning walk up our favorite trail where he nervously pulled out the ring. I said yes right away. We set the date for October and started planning. Well, mostly I planned, while he just agreed to whatever I suggested. About 3 months ago, I started noticing subtle changes in Daniel. His comments during wedding planning became vague and hesitant. When I'd show him venues, he'd mutter things like, "Is it worth all that money?" Or, "Do we need that many guests?" I brushed it off as nerves or financial stress. Then came the slow replies to my texts. I'd send him links for catering options or honeymoon ideas, and he'd respond hours later with a dry, "Sure," or "Up to you." When I asked if anything was wrong, he blamed work. His construction job had taken on several big projects, and I believed him. Last month, he started hanging out more with coworkers, especially a guy named Brad. They'd go out for drinks or watch games. Nothing suspicious, just more frequent than before. But when Daniel came home, he felt distant, always glued to his phone, barely touching me. My best friend, Julia, said it might just be cold feet and suggested we go on a date to reconnect. So I made us a dinner reservation, dressed nicely, and even stocked the fridge with his favorite IPA. But that evening was a complete flop. He was distracted and quiet, and when I brought up our honeymoon, he dropped the bomb. He wasn't sure he was ready for any of this. We argued softly in the restaurant, trying not to make a scene, but I was crumbling inside. Back home, he refused to talk more, saying he needed space and slept on the couch. The next day, the silence between us was unbearable. He went to meet Brad and some friends at a bar, and I met up with Julia to get out of the house. Later that day, I got a message from James, a colleague of Daniel's I'd met at the holiday party. He asked if I was okay and said things got weird at the bar. I called him immediately. After some hesitation, James told me that Daniel had gotten drunk, and when the guys teased him about being tied down, Daniel said something like, "If she was hotter, maybe I'd be more excited." Then he laughed it off. I sat in my car, crying. The man I was supposed to marry had reduced me to a joke in front of his friends. That night, I locked myself in the bedroom with Mocha. The next morning, he cooked breakfast, his go-to apology gesture, and acted like bacon and eggs could fix everything. When I brought up what James told me, Daniel's face changed. He said he was drunk and joking, that the guys were messing with him, and he just said something dumb to make them back off. His guys being guys excuse only made it worse. I couldn't look at him the same after that. I grabbed my purse and went to my brother Andrew's apartment. He was furious when I told him everything, but I just needed space. Daniel kept texting apologies. I didn't reply except once, to say I needed time. The next morning, I got a call from his mom, Susan. She sounded shaken and asked to meet. That's where I am now, sitting in my car, staring at my ring, wondering if everything I believed about our future was just wishful thinking. Thank you for the overwhelming support on my first post. I didn't expect it to resonate with so many. I've spent the last 2 days trying to process everything, and I finally met with Susan, Daniel's mom. After calling in sick again, I spent most of Monday hiding out at Andrew's place, reading through your comments and trying to gather my thoughts. Around lunchtime, Julia came by with sandwiches. She gently reminded me I couldn't avoid Daniel forever. We lived together, we shared accounts. We'd need to talk. So I decided to go back to the apartment and face him. I rehearsed what I'd say, calm, collected, no tears, just clarity. When I got home, Daniel was there. Off work, sitting on the couch with all the wedding planning binders spread around him, Mocha curled beside him. He looked stunned when I walked in. He said he'd taken personal time and had been looking through the wedding stuff, trying to figure out how it had all gone wrong. I told him flipping through binders wasn't going to undo what he'd said. What followed was a painful, emotional conversation. He apologized again for the bar comment, saying he didn't mean it. When I asked why he'd say something like that at all, he admitted he wanted to seem cool in front of the guys, not like someone being domesticated. It only made me angrier. I brought up his recent distant behavior and his growing doubts, even before that night at the bar. He finally confessed that he was overwhelmed, delays at work, Brad filling his head with stories about how marriage ruins everything, and financial stress over the wedding. But instead of telling me, he bottled it up. Then came something I didn't expect. He said he was terrified of becoming his dad. Daniel rarely mentioned his father, who'd left the family when Daniel was 12. His dad had cheated on his mom and moved away to start a new life. Daniel always insisted it hadn't affected him, but now he admitted that deep down he feared he was doomed to repeat the same mistakes. He was afraid he couldn't promise forever when he'd never seen what that looked like. I reminded him he wasn't his father and that being afraid didn't justify hurting me. He said he'd been talking to James sometimes about his feelings. Apparently, they'd become close. That explained the warning text I got after the bar. Then came the toughest part. I asked if his doubts were about marriage in general or marrying me specifically. He hesitated, then admitted that part of him wasn't sure if we were still right for each other long term. 5 years together and now he wasn't sure? He said we'd both changed since our early 20s. I'd become more structured and focused, while he felt like he'd lost his old dreams. He wondered if we were still growing together or drifting apart. I felt completely drained. I told him I needed time and space. Just as I was about to leave, I remembered Susan had wanted to meet. When I mentioned this, Daniel's face went pale. He said he'd talked to her the night before, but wouldn't explain more, only that I should hear it from her. I met Susan at a coffee shop that afternoon. She looked worn down. No makeup, tear-streaked face, hands trembling as she tore up a napkin. She said Daniel had confessed something during their call. There was someone else, Maria, a woman from his job. He hadn't cheated, not physically. But emotionally, he'd been pulling away from me and confiding in her. I recognized the name. He'd mentioned her a few times casually. I'd even met her at a work party. Now it all made sense. The texting, the distance, the hesitation. Susan was clearly heartbroken, worried her son was repeating history. She didn't want me to be blindsided the way she had been when Daniel's father left. Her words echoed in my mind. You can't make someone choose you. They either do or they don't. Everything else is just delay. After the meeting, I drove straight to Julia's apartment. I couldn't be in the same space as Daniel anymore. That night, I blocked his number, temporarily. I just needed silence. The next day, I got another shock. Maria herself reached out. She texted from an unknown number, asking if we could meet, just the two of us. She said there was more I needed to know. We met at a quiet cafe near the park. She was nothing like I imagined, nervous, apologetic, even uncomfortable. She told me she had no idea Daniel had feelings for her. They worked together closely, but she never saw him as more than a co-worker. Apparently, Brad had been fueling the fire. He told Daniel that Maria was better suited for him, that he was missing out by settling down. Maria overheard this and was horrified. She showed me texts, professional, friendly, but nothing romantic. She even had a boyfriend. I left that meeting not hating Maria. If anything, I pitied her. She was a pawn in all this. The real issue wasn't her. It was Daniel. His fears, his indecision, and Brad's toxic influence. I called Daniel's sister, Claire, who confirmed everything. She'd heard Daniel and Brad talking. She'd warned Daniel to come clean. He hadn't. That night, Claire hosted a family meeting. Susan came, so did Daniel, and Brad. I confronted them all. Daniel admitted everything, the emotional confusion, the joke, the insecurity. Brad tried to excuse it as just guys being guys, but everyone shut him down. And then I said the words I hadn't expected to say out loud. There's not going to be a wedding. The room went quiet. Daniel protested. Said he still loved me, that we could fix it. But love isn't enough when there's no honesty, no trust. By midnight, it was settled. The engagement was off.